Oh boy kids, we've got another early access boomer shooter on our hands, and I've been excited for this one. Prodeus, the newest and, according to Steam, only game produced by Bounding Box Software, formerly Mike and Jason. They eventually landed Humble Bundle to publish it, so hey, good for them. But the legacy of Mike and Jason lives on through the intro, where their initials are written in blood. Fucking metal. Oh wait, that says no. At first glance, you might ask, what's the big deal, Trav guy? This looks like another revival shooter in the same vein as Iron Fury. And that would be your first mistake. Prodeus describes itself as a retro shooter using modern rendering techniques. The biggest, of course, being that it's entirely 3D. This sprite work isn't actually sprite work. I was tipped off to this when I noticed some colored ambient lighting reflecting off of my guns. I realized that this is either some incredibly impressive sprite work, or the view models are actually 3D and ran through some intense filters. Even weapon drops and pickups show you a single side from certain angles, really selling that 2D look. You can toggle full 3D models for enemies if you really wanted to, smoothing out their FPS and models, even showing that these are surprisingly well detailed. This is an intentional design choice, not just a ploy to cover up messy models. But it only gives the monsters 3D models, so I don't really bother with it because it's a bit of a style mismatch. It also seems to be running off of Unity, which is kind of impressive. It's made even more obvious once you boot up the level editor. Yeah, this has a full level editor, a pretty complex one at that, not just a repeat of Doom 2016 Snap Map. Honestly, Bounding Box could have just marketed this as a boomer shooter maker and it would do just as well. But I hear you asking, Mr. Guy, how does it play? It's a little brutal, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It honestly feels more like Half-Life than it does Doom at times. More on that in a minute. Weapons are heavy, sound appropriately beefy. Your character controls smooth as butter, fast yet still feeling a bit bulky. And nearly every arena feels perfectly crafted for that arena shooter action we so affectionately crave. Which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, they got help from the guy who made Doom 2's Ev Eternity Megawatt. I never finished it got a bit too slaughter mappy for my taste, but it was still pretty good. Even Prodeus's doors are awesome. The way that they spark and shoot out so violently, and Melee, something games that inspired Prodeus did poorly in my opinion, feels fucking great as well. But that takes us to my first major complaint, the weapon wheel. If you can even call it that, it's more of a weapon grid. There's 6 weapon categories with 3 weapons in each. Melee, bullet, shells, rockets, energy, and chaos. Chaos so far only being used for this lightning gun railgun hybrid. Yeah, if you're planning on going balls to the wall with all 18 weapons, you might want to hold your breath a little longer. Only a fraction of these 18 weapons are available at this time. But what bothers me the most is how you cycle through them. You could still bind weapons to your preferred keys, but I really think that this could benefit from a Half-Life style category system, where tapping keys cycles between your bullet weapons, shell weapons, etc. I think this could really improve the flow of the game. One of the most obvious and glaring mechanics you're bound to notice is that unlike most retro shooters, you gotta factor reloading into your ammo management. I was a little worried about this at first, but it's quick enough to never really be a nuisance. If anything, it motivated me to switch between weapons instead of reloading them and sticking to a single gun, which really adds to that boomer shooter experience of constantly switching back and forth between weapons to take out the opposition as efficiently as possible. And with this many weapons at your disposal, monsters take a lot of inspiration from Doom, with your zombie shotgunners, imps, pinkies, cacodemons, pain elementals, lost souls. It's obvious what they're going for here, and I'm all for it. They do all have their own names. I only learned about them when poking through the level editor. The imps are called fiends, cacos are bloaters, pinkies are lungers. I'll do my best to respect the names they've given these guys. The game does have a bit of a slow start, throwing you into a cinematic experience of you breaking out of your ship just to see it split in half after blasting this rune with space beams, and even then, you don't get your pistol for a few minutes. You see that Chernobog looking motherfucker? You don't get to fight him in this build. You see that arc rail over there? You can't get that yet. The game also shows you your place by putting you in a room with some higher tier enemies that you can't really hope to take down yet. Nope. So after punching out a pro fiend and running for your dear life, you finally get the pistol, a self-explanatory primary fire, and a very situational burst alt fire. A decent fire rate and nice at a range, but I'd rather just fan the fire button than use the burst fire. Alright, first up, the Sacrum. And just a heads up, these first few levels are pretty standard and aren't fully representative of how nuts this game can get, so stick with me. Starts off with a simple maze that familiarizes you with your weapons. We'll get to those in a second. There's a lot of unarmed zombies, and as much as I love the sound of the pistol, I'd rather channel my inner Little Mac and punch them all out to save ammo. Just be sure to keep your eyes peeled for if the zombies have shotguns or not. Fuck the shotgun zombies. But on the other hand... This is everything a shotgun should be. Appropriately beefy and satisfying to strafe and spray. Though at times it can be a little too beefy. The secondary fire shoots out these incendiary rounds that don't seem too amazing on their own, but then you learn you could charge it. The charge shot was way too slow in the playtest. They sped it up in the current build, but I think that they might have overcorrected just a bit, cause this is just busted. Even capable of two-shotting this game's cacos. These are the bloaters, a tad on the flimsy side. Their fireballs leave hazards on the floor to keep you on your toes, but honestly, I'd never even noticed. But that lightning effect that they have is both badass and practical to alerting you to their presence. The fiends, this game's imps, also lead their shots, forcing you to sort of serpentine around the map rather than run circles around them. I'm fine with this addition, but it still manages to catch me off guard at times. And finally, to cap off the introductory weapons, the Rippers, your second bullet pool weapon, and a personal replacement for the pistols, at least until we get to the Lost Souls. Hold mouse 1 to fire a mostly accurate stream of bullets, and complement that with mouse 2 to... Wow, the Sacrum culminates with a collection of your first rune, Prodeus's plot MacGuffins. A lot like Mario 3D World's green stars. What, is that too jarring of a comparison? The game has a Mario-style world map with some levels not granting you access until you meet the rune requirements. It's hard for me to not compare this to a Mario game. It even has these green circles that are warp pipes. They're fucking warp pipes. I'm not complaining. Come one, come all to the first annual Fist Parade! You know, it's been a while and we haven't met the game's pinkies yet. The lungers, fast though not as dangerous as they might look. They could be taken down with a shotgun charge shot to the head, unless you're playing on ultra hard where you should use the rippers instead. I'll talk about the difficulty changes in just a minute. Oh yeah, ignore that giant hell portal they all seem to be worshipping. Actually, fuck that, don't ignore it. There's a ton of rocket ammo around here. I have a gut feeling that I might have missed an early rocket launcher. Whoa, wait a second. Is that a moving train? Like an actual train interacting with the real world? This isn't a Doom game anymore, this is a fucking build engine game. So that means... Oh god. Fuck the chain gunners. These bastards take top priority no matter what other monsters are around. You can one-shot them with a rocket if you have one, but until then, prepare to suffer. And to top things off, and this might be a pretty spicy hot take, the chain gun he drops isn't that amazing on higher difficulties. It looks great, it sounds great, it's pretty damn powerful, but the amount of ketchup splattering around your field of view is incredibly distracting and will often obscure enemies behind it. It just becomes impractical to the point of being a hindrance. I prefer to use it for heavier monsters rather than the massive groups of zombies and fiends like the game clearly wants me to. Why waste ammo when I can... I can at least appreciate the continuity between these two levels, with map 3 starting in the train that you exited the last level in. It's a much more vertical level too compared to the last couple levels, lots of cliffs and tall rooms, and then this elevator breaks midway through and starts to go at an angle. It's small, but it adds a lot of charm. Yep, that's Andrew Holsholt alright. You find the rocket launcher pretty early in this stage, no need to reload and pretty good damage output. It has a remote detonate alt fire that, I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot I had it until the rocket trial near the end of the current release. Yeah, fuck you, Chain Gunner! Alright, for the people who have played this, did anyone think of that room from Half-Life's Lambda Core chapter when they wound up here? It's hard for that not to come to mind here. It's like if Lambda Core was a sewer section. Oh, speaking of sewers... hazmat zombies. Unarmed but tankier versions of the regular zombies that leave floor hazards on death. It clears up pretty fast. Honestly, these guys were never really a problem for me. Let's take a detour through the game's first warp pipe, the shotgun trial. Pretty self-explanatory. Shoot the targets and activate bridges and platforms. Kill the enemies if you're going for 100%. It's a fun distraction, but that's really all it is. To my knowledge, you don't get any kind of reward for finishing it, so the whole thing just feels a little pointless. It's still fun, I just wish there was a bit of an incentive. Even just a rune would be nice. Have you ever been playing Doom and thought, wow, I really wish Lost Souls exploded when you shot them? Yeah, fuck these guys. Genesis Part 1. I'm not exactly sure what it's the genesis of, but it's when Prodeus starts teasing what it's got up its sleeves. God, that's fucking beautiful. Come on. Wait, what? This level really picks up as you venture towards the crater. Fighting in a narrow ravine with lots of ledges and platforms, it just feels really well designed. There's these electric gates here that you never see again beyond this point. They're a lot like the gates from Eternal's cultist base, where you need to stand on them for a few seconds to ensure that it opens. Hey, remember the powered up fiends from the beginning of the game? The level editor calls these pro fiends. They're not that dangerous. Not yet, anyway. Oh, hello. The Arc Rail, a blend of Quake's lightning gun and a sniper/railgun. The primary fire has this chain lightning effect that damages nearby enemies, making it a more ammo-efficient alternative for crowd control, but the secondary fire... oh god. For only 5 ammo, this became my preferred firing method for the arc rail, able to one-shot lower enemies like fiends, zombies, and lungers, as well as two-shot heavier enemies like bloaters and chain gunners, with a hell of a firing rate too. I wouldn't be surprised if this got nerfed in a future update. You'll also meet the Slayers. No, not that one. Bony looking bat motherfuckers. Pretty tanky, and though you don't see it here, they're able to buff nearby monsters, I think. You'll get a good look at that later on. Oh boy, time for the first secret level. The Chaos Generator. Whatever these fucks have been using to generate this so-called chaos is none other than this game's pain elementals, the Void Reapers. You'll approach these barriers you need to shoot down, where the inside seems to keep firing these lost souls at you, and you might think that it's probably a portal, but after taking down the third barrier, it reveals the fleshy monstrosity inside. The Void Reapers are also what's used on the Steam art for the game. Not sure why. Without context, you might think that this is the underside of a head crab. At least I did. We'll be seeing more of the Void Reapers later on, but for now, it's a pretty solid introduction to a new enemy type. A lot more glamorous than other enemies I've gotten, especially with this music. God damn, where was this during the Ancient Gods? Sorry, I don't mean to throw shade, but come on. I took my first death in this level, which leads me to my second major complaint. Death isn't really a punishment. It's like you're playing an arcade game with infinite quarters. The game doesn't set you back so you can learn and overcome the challenge. It just drops you right back onto your last checkpoint as if nothing happened, with all of the monsters you've killed remaining dead. The closest you get to a punishment is the game guilt-tripping you with all of your deaths listed at the end of the level. I don't know. There's a lot of good challenges in this game, but it's hard to take the tension seriously if there's no consequences. And yes, this does apply to the game's hardest difficulty, Ultra Hard. From my own experience, it seems to give resistances to enemies unless they're shot in the head, so unless you want to waste ammo, you gotta make sure to go for the head. Bloaters and lungers specifically felt like they had a lot more health overall. It could also be that the shotgun charge has reduced damage on Ultra Hard. I don't know. I'm doing my main run of this on hard mode, which at times feels too easy. Perhaps very hard might be the right blend of challenge and comprehensibility. Overall though, really solid level. Definitely where the game starts to stand out amongst other boomer shooters of the like. Memoriam, a fun little challenge level to thank the Kickstarter backers. I'm not one of them, unfortunately, kinda wish I was. Of course they're all fucking dead in canon, but it's cool nonetheless. Though optional, there is a bit of incentive to do it. You do get a rune from this level, so there's a bit to gain by jumping into this absolute bloodbath. It's more important than the weapon trials, I guess. You might remember this if you had access to the closed playtest. I went into this ready to absolutely blaze through it since I've played this more times than I'd like to admit, but then... That's new. The grenade launcher is a game changer if you've played this as often as I have. In hindsight, I think the level was designed with it in mind, with all these narrow openings perfectly made to lob a grenade into. It has a pretty self-explanatory primary fire with a sticky bomb secondary fire that is finicky as fuck. It's devastatingly powerful. Most of the deaths I took from this point on were from my own stupidity landing a sticky grenade on an enemy that rushes me like a lunger. But there's other times where it just doesn't go off, but when it does... Oh. Excavation is a fantastic level, probably why it was picked for the playtest. I'm a sucker for stages revolving around bringing keys to the center of the map where the path you take is relatively non-linear. I'm on the record complaining about this in the past with Doom, but I've grown a lot in the past couple years. This secret here gave you the rocket launcher in the playtest. I was disappointed that it's just green armor, but that's about where my complaints end. Alright, Marksman, another standout level. You've got a couple of zombie snipers behind a force field pinning you down for most of the level, so you're forced to go on with some caution. This level establishes an obvious threat from the beginning and plays to that mental bond once you finally make it to the fortress. How does it feel to get a taste of your own medicine, you plasma fuck? We also meet the Rune Extractors. It took a while to finally get context for these pro-fiends. From this point on, when you collect a big glowy plot MacGuffin, expect to be met by a horde of Rune Extractors. I can't really tell how much of a difference from the original variants there are, aside from having more health, but that blue glow that they emanate, it's fucking beautiful. The level ends with this unique door with a spinning lock. Why do we never see this again? Here's a little behind the scenes from my videos. When I take notes, I highlight how I feel about a note by highlighting it with red, yellow, or green. This is the only level in the entire document that's all green across the board. I'll let that speak for itself. I hope you enjoyed your stay at the Prodeus Inn, because it's about time that we get to the real meat and potatoes. Descent, a prison built to contain the elite Prodeus hunters. We're about an hour into the game, and I still don't exactly know what a Prodeus is. I checked the definition on Google, and I'm willing to bet it's not bacteria found in animal intestines. We get a bit of environmental storytelling here as well, witnessing the Harbingers converting fiends into pro-fiends. It's really neat. Where like Chaos Generator, the entirety of this level is focused around shutting down the power holding the Harbinger captive, and once it's free... A bit underwhelming as a mini-boss, but don't worry, we're gonna be seeing more of him later. Hazard, a canyon scoured for runes and Proteus tech. This one was a lot of fun too. Shoot the switches on the floor to raise the slime level, but then... The crawlers. Tiny fucks who rush you down and leave floor hazards upon death. A lot like the ticks from Titanfall 2, except somehow even more annoying. Honestly, these things are the only stain on an otherwise great level. You get the plasma rifle next to the secret here. Its primary fire is self-explanatory, but its alt fire... It's a goddamn homing beacon. I don't know what it is with these indie shooters giving already powerful weapons homing beacons, but I'm all for it. Taste homing beacon, you neon blue fuck. Nope. Got another trial if you so desire. The rocket trial. It's a bit too similar to the shotgun trial for my liking. I managed to die to this one, but it was only because of my own stupidity, detonating a rocket too close to my face. The real fun is in the shredder trial, accessible once you've completed the shotgun and rocket trials. Standing out because of these large targets that require a few hits to move. Moments like pushing a giant fan blade around as you run in its path. It's pretty fun. Still no reward for doing these though. I feel like I'm missing something. Meltdown, another solid level. Man, really everything after Chaos Generator is a really solid time. A lot like Excavation in that you need to bring your keys to this machine in the middle. The goal is to shut down the reactor for the acid pits. The significance of I'm still not sure about, but fuck it, it's still cool. Alright, I'm gonna ruin the magic here. I don't think this Meltdown is on an actual timer. I'm pretty sure it only goes up with how many monsters you've killed. But that doesn't change that it's a goddamn spectacle. And that brings us to the final level of the current build, the Forge. Got a really nice hellish setting going on. Even the big targets from the Ripper trials are here. Oh hey, beautiful. Okay, whose idea was it to give the super shotgun 4 barrels? You really think we'd get a Doom-like without a super shotgun? Left click to fire a single barrel, right click to just let all hell loose. The only downside is that all of these zombies are chasing me around that the game clearly wants me to SSG. You will not deny me my fist parade. That is the Slayer buffing those fiends, right? I'm not crazy. I really like this little lava ride. You're able to hop on hazardous floors for a second without getting hurt, a lot like classic Doom. So it's kind of fun to just jump between them. Alright, bring it on. Wait, are those pro crawlers? Oh, fuck that. You think that scares me? The only thing I regret is that I ended this level with a sticky grenade that refused to go off, but overall, I needed a shower. Oh shit, I lied! The ammo cache is the final level of the early access. Look at all those unused weapon slots. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I had a lot of fun making it. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and check out my Patreon. Patrons got to see this video last Friday. But okay, I hate shilling. Have a good night, guys.